Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am absolutely honoured to be joined today by a giant of the American legal system. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
Hello, Calvin. I am Antonin Scalia, though most people knew me as Nino. I spent nearly 30 years as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, trying my best to interpret the Constitution exactly as it was written.
It's great to have you, Nino. Let's go back to the beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on March 11th, 1936 in Trenton, New Jersey.
And what was your given name at birth?
My given name was Antonin Gregory Scalia.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
My parents were Italian immigrants, and they wanted a name that reflected our heritage. Antonin is a version of Antonino. It was a name that carried the weight of tradition, which I suppose suited me quite well later in life.
What was your hometown like growing up?
We moved to Elmhurst, Queens when I was a young boy. It was a wonderful, middle-class neighborhood. It was the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors, and there was a real respect for hard work and education.
What was your family life like?
I was an only child, which meant I received a lot of attention. My father, S. Eugene Scalia, was a professor of Romance languages, and my mother, Catherine, was an elementary school teacher. Dinner conversations were lively and intellectual. You had to be able to defend your point of view at our table.
What kind of kid were you?
I was quite studious, perhaps a bit of a quote-unquote brain, but I also loved being part of a group. I was a Boy Scout and played in the band. I was definitely the kid who followed the rules. I liked structure even then.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
I suppose my biggest fear was letting my parents down. They had such high hopes for me, and I felt a great responsibility to succeed and honor the opportunities they worked so hard to give me.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
For a while, I thought about being a priest, which is a common path for a young Catholic boy in a devout family. But as I got older, the intellectual rigor of the law began to call to me.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I loved history and Latin. I was also very active in the marching band at Xavier High School. I played the French horn. I enjoyed the discipline of it.
What was your first job?
My first real job after finishing my education was as an associate at the law firm Jones Day in Cleveland, Ohio. It was a sharp introduction to the real world of legal practice.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
I wouldn't say different, but I realized early on that I had a very specific way of looking at the world. I didn't see the law as something to be molded by current trends. I saw it as a fixed anchor. Realizing that many of my peers saw it as a living thing was a turning point for me.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Choosing to leave private practice to teach at the University of Virginia. It felt like a career shift, but it was there that I really developed my philosophy on originalism, which defined my entire career.
What was your biggest break?
Without a doubt, it was being nominated to the Supreme Court by President Ronald Reagan in 1986. I was confirmed 98-0. What were your biggest struggles before success? Early in my career, there were times when my judicial philosophy was very much in the minority. It can be lonely to be the one standing apart, insisting on a strict interpretation of the text when everyone else wants to find new meanings.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. I enjoyed the fight too much. I loved the intellectual combat of a good legal argument.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel were essential to your success?
I was a very early riser. I found the morning hours to be the best for writing my opinions and dissents. And of course, regular prayer and attending Mass were the foundations of my day.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I suspect I would have remained a law professor. I loved the classroom environment and the spark of debating with bright young minds.
How did relationships change after success?
My relationship with my wife, Maureen, stayed exactly the same. She was always the one who kept me grounded. We had 9 children, And at home, I wasn't the justice, I was just dad.
Did fame bring happiness?
Fame was never the goal. Happiness for me came from doing my duty to the Constitution and spending time with my large, boisterous family. What misconceptions did people have about you? Many people thought that because I was a conservative and a strict constructionist, I must be a cold or angry person. In reality, I loved to laugh. I loved music, and I had many dear friends who disagreed with me on every political issue imaginable.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
People often misunderstood my friendship with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We were at polar opposites of the legal spectrum, but we shared a deep love for opera and for the institution of the court. You can disagree on the law and still be best friends.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong, and how did you handle it?
There were cases where I felt the court was making a massive error in judgment. When things went wrong in that sense, I poured all my energy into a dissent. If I couldn't convince my colleagues, I would write for the future and for the students of the law.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My father. He taught me the value of precision in language. If you don't use words correctly, you can't think correctly.
What was life like in your final years?
I was very active. I was still hearing cases, writing frequently, and enjoying my favorite hobbies, hunting and spending time at my favorite retreats.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was in the middle of a very busy term at the court dealing with complex cases regarding administrative law and individual rights. I never slowed down.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on February 13th, 2016, at a ranch in Shafter, Texas.
What happened?
It was determined to be natural causes, specifically a heart attack. I went peacefully in my sleep after a lovely day spent outdoors.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was an avid hunter, but I also played a mean game of poker. I used to have a regular game with some of the other justices and folks around DC.
What was your most unique habit?
I was known for being quite animated on the bench. I couldn't just sit still during oral arguments. I had to lean forward, gesture, and ask questions. I was also very particular about my fountain pens.
What was your favorite food?
I had a great love for traditional Italian food, of course, but I also developed a taste for wild game that I had hunted myself.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
I was a regular at AV Ristorante Italiano in DC for many years until it closed. It felt like home.
What was your favorite book?
Aside from the Bible and the Constitution, I was a great admirer of Macbeth. I loved the power of Shakespeare's language.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
There were many times during the annual skit at the court where we would poke fun at ourselves. Seeing my colleagues in ridiculous costumes or trying to sing was always a highlight.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't chase success for its own sake. Chase the truth. Be precise in your thoughts and your words, and have the courage to stand by your convictions even when they are unpopular.
Justice Scalia, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
I would just say that it has been a pleasure to reflect on a life spent in service to the law. I hope that even those who disagreed with my opinions can appreciate the importance of having a vigorous debate. Thank you for having me, Calvin. It's been a grand time.
Thank you, Nino. What a fascinating look into the mind of a man who shaped American history. We talked about his love for the French horn, his legendary friendship with Justice Ginsburg, and his unwavering commitment to the written word. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.